Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to talk about the value of the stories that we tell at the table, and how what's happening at each Dungeons and Dragons table here in modern day, 50 years after Gary Gygax launched the game in 1974, is truly unique and not like any other content that is being made. So we're also going to talk about Patrick Willem's video essay. I think that's the best term for it, about content. All right, so let's jump in here. So first of all, Patrick Willem is a film critic, and he is a really good film critic. He, rather than just review one movie, he reviews themes, or specifically, he reviews themes in film, right? Like, looks at, he takes a topical approach. So he's not going to just like review the latest movie that came out in the movies. He's going to look at cinema at the macro level, which, oh my gosh, is that valuable. He's absolutely brilliant. He's one of the best film critics ever, right? But he recently did a piece called Everything is Content, and he talked about, and he hates the word content. He despises it. He's like, this is really bad. And so he does and basically what he's saying is, if you use the word content, what you're really doing is you're looking at everything on the internet. First of all, he defines content as literally everything on the internet, right? So Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's movie San Andreas is content, the same way Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's Instagram, and this is what Patrick called it, shilling for an energy drink, is content. And my content would be content, right? So he's defining content as anything on the internet, which I think is a correct, as it's being used today, that is a correct description, right? Where it gets interesting is he's frustrated because he's like, oh, hey, a film that's been made by a director with actors should not be compared to, some guy in Nebraska's commentary on Super Mario RPG. They're not the same thing. And the word content treats them as the same thing. Patrick Willem is 100% right about that. He is absolutely correct that that's what's happening with content. But what's interesting is the moment you accept what Patrick Willem is defining as content, everything on the internet, it makes what's happening at the Dungeons and Dragons table even more valuable than we thought before, right? So what we're doing is we are creating a movie, right? We're creating a series, right? We're creating a series, and this gets really interesting. So we're creating this series, right? A story, a sequential story. And I think, and actually we already know most Dungeons and Dragons campaigns are 6 sessions long. Mine are usually 12 to 18 long. And so that series of story, right? We're telling this series, we're telling this story, we're creating this narrative, right? We're doing all the same work as a producer, a director, the actors. We're doing the same thing, but it's hyper personal, and the audience is engaged in the creation of the story. So first of all, that has never happened before Gary Gygax. We've never had a medium that allows, actually demands, that the audience is hyper engaged, right? That literally the story does not move forward without them, right? So we've never had a story platform that makes people as hyper engaged as they are when they're engaged in Dungeons and Dragons. The other thing that's astounding is, like, the scale of a movie is, we're going to create this thing, we're going to set it on film, we're going to distribute it, right? And it's really interesting because you get this production, right? Like that, you get a production of what you're seeing, right? But it's not made for anyone. It's extremely impersonal, right? Like, it's just made for the masses, and no movie ever really rises to the point of being valuable to anyone personally, right? Because it's never made for them personally. Whereas Dungeons and Dragons, you're dealing with a dungeon master who knows you, you know them, you know the players at the table, right? And you are bringing your whole self to there, right? And they're interacting with your they are interacting with your you as a person, but also your player character, both. And again, there's no medium that does this, right? And so the point is, Patrick Willem is right. We have flattened all of this art into content, right? But when we come out the other side of it, we realize what I've been saying for 5 years, in my humble opinion, on the secular side of humanity's activities. Dungeons and Dragons stories are the most personal, the most purely artistic, the most innovative form of narrative that has ever existed. And what I'm saying is, on a secular perspective, not a sacred perspective, on a secular perspective, these stories are the most valuable stories being told right now, right? And if you even go further and just look at connect the dots ramifications of what I'm saying, it's split humanity into two types of people who have engaged with this identity engine that Gary Gygax has created and lived multiple lives, been able to explore identity in the 85 years they have on this planet in a way that the other half, right? And it's actually, I don't even think 15% of the people on the planet have played Dungeons and Dragons, but the 15% who have, let's call it there, right, are living these incredibly rich, robust lives that have almost an unfair advantage, right? Like, whereas if you don't, you live this incredibly desiccated, limited life of one identity, right? And the value on these games is higher than anyone knows, and the value only gets higher as we understand what art is and how it's propagated, in my humble opinion. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.